down. Put your headphones on.
Had my headphones on backwards.
You'd have thought this is the first time you ever did this.
Yeah, sometimes it is.
Okay. Well, anyways, welcome to West Virginia Uncommonplace. This is Stacy.
And I'm JR.
And we're going to do a surprise episode.
Okay.
JR has no idea what this topic is on, but I have some questions. So we just did a batch of episodes.
Okay.
So the statement you made to me was, I'm not going to edit these tonight, I'll do them tomorrow. And, and it got me thinking. Explain to me your thought process. What made you decide to go from, let me edit these after I complete them, to doing them whenever you feel like it?
Oh, because I have systems and processes. Like, these episodes, when we record them together, and I'm not, excuse my language, but when I'm not fucking with people on Zoom, I know that the quality's straight because I set the presets on here, right?
Right, but you also take the time when you're doing a Zoom episode or an interview with somebody, you still finished editing that video that same day, audio that same day.
Yeah,
most of the time.
I got a little lazy. I'll tell you, I did a show with a lady like last Saturday. I haven't even touched it for editing because I have so much that's on my plate.
Personal stuff, yeah.
Well, no, I have so much. Our batched episodes are already ready.
Right.
So I was thinking, we ended up doing, including this episode, 5 episodes?
Something like that. I don't remember.
We've done 5 episodes, and I'm like,
this might be all over the place. So trigger warning for those of you that get offended by that.
Yeah, please don't get offended because this show is zany. West Virginia Commonplace. Ooh, snap into a Slim Jim brother, sister, or whatever you call yourself. Now, the thing is, I was just being lazy. I know that I can take that memory card out and put it on that computer with the little extra dongle piece right here. Like
you were being lazy tonight, or just
I was just being lazy tonight because I wanted to watch something with you on TV.
Right, and I'm not bringing this up because of that statement. It made me think of a conversation we had the other day. So the benefits of record, edit, draft. You got the time. You record your episode, you edit your episode, then you place it in your arsenal.
Yeah, in my archive.
Whatever.
Right.
Arsenal sounded better to me.
Yeah,
I
Arsenal,
like the way it rolls off my tongue.
Like I'm about to be like Optimus Prime and shoot fire out my arms or something.
Right.
Episode here, episode there, episode 23.
So when you first started, did you do it that way?
No.
So, and it stressed you out, right?
Oh my gosh, I was a clusterfuck.
Yeah.
Excuse my language, but let me tell you. So, you have always been since the pandemic. You've been working from home,
right? 100%. I never stopped.
So my first time doing some of these shows, I did them over with Anchor on the phone with someone else talking, like we were actually having a self-open conversation, and I would record it, and then it would just stay on Anchor.
Right, because I'll deal with it later. Mentality.
Right, and I didn't edit
which was fine.
And I didn't edit those back then. I didn't have, and heck, I just started doing a freaking intro just because someone was like, "Can you do an intro?" The show back then was really amateurish, but people listened, so I was like, "Okay."
I mean, what are you talking about? It is still amateurish right now.
But
I get what you're saying, but I had to throw that in there on you.
Right, there's systems and processes to it now. I got it like that. It's like tying the shoes. I can do these 5 episodes and have all of them edited in an hour.
Right. So I notice a big difference in when you would do them before compared to when you do them now. When you say, "Hey, I've got an interview scheduled at 1:00. I know I'm not going to see you until 1 to 2. You have your introduction and your recording. If it runs over a little bit more, whatever, we'll give you a little leeway there. Then 2 to 3, you're editing. So I know to give you about 4 hours to do an interview, edit, and you also create your artwork within that time frame. And before, I felt like, oh my gosh, why is he spending so much time doing this? Like, it would bother me because I work Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. I have a set schedule. I mean, my work allows me to adjust, and I fluctuate sometimes. And there's always that required overtime whenever claims get high. But in general, I have a pretty standard work schedule. So I would always get irritated when you would choose to do all of your interviews at the beginning of the day, and then you spend all your time by yourself editing and creating all your artwork, scheduling your posts, and all this time on Instagram because you thought you had to do it manually, and each time you wanted to post, you were doing it that way. And I'll be honest, it stressed me out a little bit because I'm needy. I need the attention. I want the attention. I'm selfish. I want your time. But the way that you do it now, I don't want to say you've perfected it because there's always room for improvement. I don't care if you have the #1 podcast and you're making 6 figures or more a year. There's always room for improvement. But I do appreciate the way that you do it now because I know that I can give you 3 hours and more than likely you're going to have it done. You're going to have your you're going to do your interview. You're going to have your episode edited. You're going to have your artwork created. And you're also going to have your advertisement created in the little thing that you have set up for however many days in the future.
Okay, so can I give them a little bit here? So the key thing that happened here is automation took over too much, and then we got artificial intelligence, so 2 things with A's.
Yeah.
I became AAA, as they call it. The problem was in the beginning that I would record these shows, and I would find guests from wherever, so I had to create questions, I had to do this, and that. And I still create questions all the time because anybody that's interviewing someone, to be prolific with interviews, you have to have a template of who, why, how, and whatever.
Right.
So I got to a point where I can fish through someone's information just like that. And I ask certain questions, and however the conversation goes, I can tell if it's going to be a good episode or if it's going to need some polish. If it's going to need polish, that's what used to take so long because I would interview people and people would go flat or I would go flat in the interviews. Mm-hmm. And now I've got it to a certain degree. Like I know how to do the highs and lows, so that works there. Now, post-production. Mm-hmm. Pre-production is nothing now. I don't even...
Right.
Pre-production I can't even tell you what I do for pre-production.
Right, because let me throw in pre-production there. If you plan too much for your guest, you're going to know all the information and you're going to forget to ask an important question because you already know the answer. And those are the things that I think I tried to explain to you at one point, and it might have been somebody else, one of your podcaster buddies that
King Germ,
probably King Germ, probably mentioned to you, you don't need to know all this stuff about them. You're figuring it out in the episode, like when you're talking to them. So that's one thing I've noticed that freed up a lot of your time as well. Because like I said, if you are doing all this research on your guest, you know them. But I'm not going to sit there and do the research. I want to listen to your episode. But you forget to ask the important question. And I'm lost.
Right. So I took something from another podcaster. His name is James Lampkin. He has an amazing show, Conversations with Lamp. He freestyles his shows. Mm-hmm. He knows no offense to him or anything, but sometimes he don't know shit about his guest.
Right. And sometimes those are the best episodes.
Right. So what I did is I took my standard issued questions because everybody knows I got a template in the science for everything, a starter kit for whatever. And the first question you get is, who is this person? Because that's simple. You got to get that out the way.
Right.
So from there, I'll pick and pull, and I have to pay close attention. Sometimes I don't, and then I get lost in the sauce. And you can hear it in certain episodes. But I will, I got my hand in there. I don't know. Maybe it's
you think we're on video?
Yeah, I think we're on video. So I will sit there, and I will definitely go in, and I will just get tight with it. I'm like, hey, this guest is on. I want this guest because they're going to be part of the curation process. Curation is something that I learned. Right. I didn't know what the fuck curation was until like last year. 37 years in the game. Or 38, however old I am. 37 years in the game, didn't know what curation was. I've always curated stuff and didn't know it.
Right.
I make the playlist that you want to hear. So I learned along this process that I had to figure a way to get things done in a linear expression, a straight line.
Okay.
And before, I was up and down going crazy and all this stuff.
It took a lot of time and effort. And I'm not saying that you don't put the effort in now. I'm not saying that at all. Like I said, I feel like you have aced the podcasting stuff, because I don't want to say you perfected it, because like I said earlier,
Always
there's
room to grow.
always room for improvement.
Yes.
So I guess the point of this episode and why I wanted to talk to you is, any podcaster out there, if you feel like I'm spending way too much time on this, my significant other is complaining because it is taking away their time, like me. I don't know how many times I sat there and I looked at you. I was like, can we go do something? Because I'm tired of sitting here. Like, I'm getting a little frustrated because you're not giving me my attention that I need. Reevaluate how you're doing things.
Oh, yeah.
So, are you doing a batch episode of interviews and then you're overwhelmed with the interviews, so you hold off on the editing and then you have to create all your artwork later?
I used to do that.
Right. That's the point I'm making. So, you don't have to know everything about your guest. You know, leave some mystery in there. Learn that as you're doing the interview. Record your episode, edit your episode, do your artwork, do your advertisement, and then you're done.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it sounds simple, and it's not that simple. I know there's other stuff to it. I don't do all of this other stuff. I do the conversating, and that's about it, to be honest. And I know that you put so much work into it, and I know that there's the others that are out there doing these podcasts and they're alone. They don't have somebody else to edit their shows and stuff like that. That's okay. But also remember, if you need help with something, if you feel that you can't do it by yourself, don't be afraid to ask somebody.
Yeah.
Like, jump on Instagram or Facebook and find your people. Find your podcasters. There's all kinds of podcast conventions.
Yes.
So definitely those are great things. They're even beneficial to people that are shy, are quiet, that don't want to talk to anybody. It's a lot of information. Sometimes you get overloaded with everything. You don't know what you're doing. You get psyched out or whatever. Just ask somebody. So that also leads us into your new adventure.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
So JR is slowly but surely going to be coming into a consultation person.
Yeah, I'm moving over into the realm of, we're going harder with the consultation. We've always had it set up.
Right.
But let's be honest, guys. I do so much crap that I half-ass some things.
Right.
I half-ass the consultation thing.
Right. And it's not one of these things where, hey, I know this information, I've seen the results, you pay me some money and we'll figure it out. That's not what it is. That's not what we're about. We don't want to gatekeep anything from you. If you have a simple question and you ask it respectfully, he's going to help you out.
Right.
Just don't demand it and expect to know the answer, and then don't try to ask somebody all the time. And I think that goes with a majority of podcasters, because there are a lot of good podcasters out there that are nice and friendly. And if you come about it the right way, they're probably going to help you. Yeah, they're not going to say, oh, go to this person because they're going to pay you this amount of dollars just to put an ad in there. They're probably not going to give you that information out. But, you know, like, hey, your sound's a little off, so try this microphone.
Right.
That's free information.
And one thing I will say here, can I throw a few things in here real quick? So here's one thing. When you talk in principle, when we're talking about consultation, until you sign a NANDA with me, we can talk about all kinds of stuff across the world. We can say anything that could come to fruition. But until you sign that NANDA and we have an active working agreement, anything we talk about is just a bunch of hearsay and it's just between us.
Right.
When you... And the one
Anything
thing
you can find on Google.
Anything you can find on Google. Vanilla information.
Yeah.
So one thing that I like to say here is that I'm from Virginia originally. So we got a certain level of Southern hospitality and we have a certain level of respect. Respect for me is not giving me any bit of attitude.
Right.
I don't want any type of sarcasm. I don't want anything out the way because I don't live my life like that.
Right. And you got to remember that even though you might not mean to sound rude, sarcastic, or offensive in a message, it is easy to perceive?
Yeah,
Perceive that as negativity.
Yeah.
Because messages are hard to read. It's not like you pick up the phone or you're looking at somebody in the face and you can tell that they're joking of some sort.
Right. So my thing here is that when you want this podcast audit done and you want to get this like completed and taken out and have it proper, you have to allow the time for it to be done.
Right.
You have to understand that it costs money because I have to go to Rephonic, I have to go to Podcharts. I got to look at your results.
Right.
I got to do what the industry guy's going to charge you $5,000 for at a nice affordable price so that you can keep podcasting and you can actually grow your audience in the method of knowing your audience.
Right.
The problem that I have in podcasting is this real simple thing. Everybody gets out here and does a show, right? Mm-hmm. They say, oh, my audience, I have analytics to show that somebody's listening in Ohio. All right, but who is that person in Ohio? How do you figure that out? The guru tells you to look on an email. Nah, I don't tell you to look on an email. I tell you something real simple. If someone's listening to your show in Ohio, you shout it out. You find a service that gives them a level of intimacy with you. If you use the Wire app, which is an encryption app, which is part of West Virginia Commonplace. So if you do need to send us anything, send something to my Wire app. I still take messages over there. Find a way, a landing place for people to come to. That's not in the DMs. That's not in a text message. That's not in a Snap message. Find a Discord. Find somewhere where people can meet and greet you in a way that they can feel comfortable and they're having an enclosure.
Right.
And that's what's missing with these podcasters. They don't know their audience. They say they know their analytics, but and they take that and tie it around and say they know their audience.
Right, and that's the difference. You know your analytics. And like you just said, you know your analytics, but you don't know your podcast or your listeners. And that's the, you know, that makes complete sense. I've never heard it like that. But you just saying it that way, I'm like, okay, light bulb.
Right. So I have 4 different avenues, which if you ever want to talk to me about it, I keep hitting that table. Those 4 different avenues I go down, I know my listeners.
Right.
I know that Tim in Toledo that I talk about so much, even though his name is Timothy Hines, he lives in Toledo. He listens to my show. He lets me know when it's crap. He lets me know when the audio's off. I definitively can find my listeners. Now,
right, and that statement you just said there is a difference in putting someone's show down and letting them know that something is off. And I guarantee you he does that in a very
colorful manner.
Yeah, I did.
Yes.
I had to look for my word.
So podcasters, one thing I want to throw out here, and this is just one thing I always like to tell people. What happens is once you get these processes and systems down, you have to develop your own. What works for me may not work for you. But the template can work for you.
Yes.
That's the one thing that I don't like about people that aren't trying to be educated or learn. Mm-hmm. A template can be configured to you.
Right.
Like it's just simple as night and day when it comes to something like that. The next thing, there are services that make podcasting easier. So
and a lot of them are free.
Yeah, a lot of them are free. And
but nobody wants to tell you the free services.
Right. Nobody wants to tell you the free services. But I will say this to you. If you need help in podcast integration, like how to set up your show, how you want to run it, Alex Sanfilippo and the people at PodPros have systems set up. They even have a little calendar. They have a thing called Podcast SOP. I use Podcast SOP to get me into my systems, to figure out when I needed to do episodes, how I was going to do them, what time frames. I sat there and set up a little something so I could see what it looked like. Then I got lazy. I got real lazy. Putting out show notes, sometimes I'd only write 2 sentences. Then there comes Deidre Shan and her amazing group, Bonnie and her husband, Deidre's husband. I'm sorry, I don't know.
And he probably butchered her name. We are sorry.
Yeah. Their Cap Show.
Yes.
Cap Show is, excuse my language, is a motherfucking beast. It elevated my marketing portion of podcasting. Now, real quick tidbit. Marketing is when I make the ad. Advertisement is when I figure out the proper placement when I do an ad prior.
Okay.
I put an ad out at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to do waves. I put that out same ad out at 12 a.m. It's not going to do shit. Crickets.
Right.
I put that ad out at 8 o'clock in the morning. I've lost people.
Okay.
learn
Right,
it.
and that's the thing that you have to learn with your listeners. You got to know when they want the stuff out there. I mean, you can't cater to everybody, and I say this I've said this quite a bit today. You can't make a show that everybody's going to listen to.
Right.
But you can make a show that everybody's going to listen to something.
Right. So when people say niche down, this is where I go different. I don't say niche down in one place.
Right.
I say make a series for everything. I got the Y series because I had so many Ys in my life. It started with Marvel. Marvel
Right.
Y. Why are you doing this to me?
Right. And it also helps you find what you're good at. Like, if you come in...
The thing is going off.
Right. And you had a very, like, a good and a bad experience with this one. Your life coaches did really good at one point, but then they kind of faded off because it was overload. You did some type of rap music, didn't you?
Yeah.
And it didn't go anywhere.
Right.
Like, the people that listened to you didn't want nothing to do with that.
Yeah. My show, they clearly said on our show, and it was my show then.
Right.
What the fuck are you doing with music artists?
Right.
And I love everybody. Rebecca Todd, my favorite independent musician out of North Carolina. Shout out. But I can't do those type of shows because
Right.
I'm not an authority in music. When you see me, you know I got a playlist because you can see it publicly on Apple Music. But I'm an authority in these areas. Video games, anything that's got to do with putting a movie through a projector, small growth patterns in podcasting, and Appalachian, West Virginia, JR life.
Yeah.
Those are things I'm an authority in. I lost this authority, and I hate to say this. This is my mistake, guys. Here it goes. Here goes the golden bread of this episode. My mistake was when I was having these life coaches on, or I was interviewing anybody, I didn't take ownership of that I had knowledge. I would pass it on to the guest. The guest puts out every single thing that they want to. And I give them way too much time talking. And I didn't interject.
I think the problem was that you did too many at one time. Like I said, I think it was a little bit of oversaturation.
Okay. I can see that. So then I got to the point I started listening to the analytics and stuff like that. When I started bringing you on more, people like the banter, the camaraderie that we have going on. When I say something and then you ad lib or you put your stuff in there. Kind of like any type of couple that does anything in life. So those episodes jump. Movie reviews. Even though I was affiliated with some great podcasts at different points, Galaxy of Film all day long.
Right.
No hardship with y'all guys. Still love. Dealing with other podcasters like the ones that do Old Republic, the Star Wars thing. Because I did a May the 5th episode about Star Wars with a guy a year or two ago. So I learned that certain things worked out. Podcast collide episodes. We killed that off because it didn't work. Because my audience liked the fact of hearing about other podcasters. But when it came to
they don't want them to shove down their throat.
Right, they didn't want to
So that might be a thing that you can do once a month, but not every Saturday like you were.
So let me tell you. So we'll go in and I'm giving you the science. So I killed Podcast Collide. I came back with the Unfiltered series. The Unfiltered series, I did that, and podcasters come on. We talk about podcasting, but then we talk about some pop culture, and then we talk about some silly shit. And those are well received. They're like, hey, I want to check out this podcaster later.
Right. So basically, to sum up this episode, because we're getting a little timey here, little long-winded over there. You might not figure out what you're good at the first day you do decide to jump into podcasting. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to change things up. Try your mics out. If they don't work, go buy a new one. If you don't have the money to go buy a new one, work with what you got. I mean, you can record a pretty decent episode on your phone, and you sound okay. But just know, it's fine to have crappy shows.
Yeah.
Like, if your volume's not perfect, who cares? You can also jump on Fiverr and pay somebody in India like $5 to edit your episode.
Right. Or you can find people around here in Canada.
True. But I mean, I hear you talk about that all the time. So
yeah.
And I see them hit your account. So I had to throw that in there.
Right. And sometimes they do better editing. They do distraction editing because I don't do that. So to finish this up for me, because I'm always long-winded and I say all the
And he
all the
always
stuff.
has to have the last word.
Yeah, always. Well, not the last word.
This is my episode. I'm taking over. You ain't just to finish it up. So just to finish it up.
Oh, so I can't just give a little guest spot?
No, you're done. So to finish it up, this is my episode today, sir, because I am trying to acknowledge your greatness.
Oh. Thank you.
Anyways, he done made me forget my train of thought.
But this
Don't be afraid to try something different. If it doesn't work for you, try it a different way. If it's taking too much of your time, ask somebody for help. Like I said, wvuncommonplace@gmail.com is your best avenue for professional information. You can always follow him on Instagram at wvuncommonplace. Those take a little bit longer to get back to because, people aren't glued to their phones. I mean, I am, but he's not. Go ahead. Because I know you're struggling over there.
Yeah, look, I was holding my legs. I was like, ooh, let me talk. So one thing I want to add in here that I want to reiterate to people, the hardest thing that I had to do was learn that there was not one style of podcasting. Do interviews. Do the dual shows or the group ones. Do the solo shows.
Find out what works for you.
Yes. And when you do that, you'll find a balance. And then you'll cut some shit out.
And then don't be afraid to expand. Like, go to Podfest on Orlando. When we first left Podfest in Orlando, we're not going back. We weren't going to go back. It was a great experience, but I don't want to go back. But here we are, almost the end of April. We can't wait for Podfest up next year.
Right. And just a tidbit, if you do Podfest, do the virtual one also, because the way that you meet and greet people and you find out information, I've met prospects that didn't want to be guests on my show, but wanted to offer me business, wanted to help my show, wanted me to analyze things.
Right.
People that have creations have come to me, and now I never thought I was authority in anything, but I've got people that say, hey, you've got a system here. We like what you do.
Right.
And I necessarily didn't get that at the live Podfest, but I got it through the virtual event.
Right. I feel like we were I feel like we were very overwhelmed because it was our first experience. And you and I are complete opposites. You can go out there and talk to a tree all day and you're fine. I would rather sit in my room and read a book.
True.
So on top of you trying to take care of my issues, you were also trying to learn as much information as you could.
True.
But like I said, next year we can't wait to go back.
SeaWorld.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That's on another episode. Make sure you listen to Sparrows Under Review so that way you can hear all of our good stuff we have to say about SeaWorld.
SeaWorld chicken. chicken.
But anyway, so if the cards line up, we are going to be doing the Podfest in Orlando. And then we don't know. We might do Vegas next year.
Or wherever they do Evolution.
Or Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado maybe in August. We don't know yet.
Yeah, not this year. I don't feel like it's in the cards this year just yet, unless they come back with something that But I feel like we're almost done this year. We might do the one in New Jersey. But any type of virtual event, join some Facebook groups if they're out there. JR doesn't do a whole lot of Facebook, so I don't know that they exist. But don't be afraid to ask for help. And if you get someone rude and nasty, just throw them under the bus and move on to the next person.
Right.
So
Expose bad people.
Exactly. Save the receipts. Screenshot that shit. So I wanted to thank you for listening to WV Uncommonplace. I am Stacy.
And I'm JR sometimes.
And we're signing off.